non-aggression. Once that lesson sets in, you'll see a session where you...
Let's jump into NXT. It's 3 Count Commentaries. Your host, MagMongoSlade. April 11th, 2023. All right. So we start the show with a mass promo segment that featured Carmelo Hayes, Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, Grayson Waller, as they all talk about who is going to be the #1 contender for the NXT championship. And it was all very interesting stuff. McDonough, I can't believe he's still here. Can't believe they put Dragon Lee in another Fatal 4-Way match. For Christ's sake, the guy's been on the roster less than a month, and he's already been in 2 Fatal 4-Ways. Sean, I need you to vary this up. The sad part about this whole thing is how meh the crowd was. The crowd didn't seem to really care too much about anybody here. They didn't really give a damn about too many of these guys at all, period. But they left the 4th guy to be a mystery. Now, this ended up being very interesting later on because the 5th guy supposedly was going to be Bron Breakker. Now, this ties into the award ceremony for Duke Hudson, who, this was an interesting segment because he was getting the MVP trophy for being the guy who got the pin that kept Chase U around, defeating Schism, essentially. In the promo at one point, Duke Hudson actually turned heel by saying he didn't want the attention, but it had to be about him because he's the one who took Chase University to the promised land. And then he thanked Andre and Thea near the end after giving himself pretty much all of the credit. Now, Bron Breakker interrupted this. And it was Bron Breakker who came out to interrupt this thing. Bron Breakker says that the NXT title is a curse and that he wanted Duke Hudson to take his spot in the Fatal 4-Way. What he meant by the NXT title being a curse, don't know. Now, he did say he didn't want or need the approval of these scumbags, which was awesome. I like Bron Breakker as a heel already. But I don't, what did he mean by NXT title being a curse? Why Duke Hudson? These questions and more on the next episode of NXT. I have no earthly idea what this guy's talking about. But Bron's going to leave. He's out of here. He's done everything that he came to do. And then he changed his mind and speared Andre Chase. And boy, oh boy, did that joint look good. Man, it looked like a really good spear. Andre Chase sold it like a gem. At this point, Duke Hudson is still in the ring. Thea Hale is freaking out because she always freaks out. And we get this crazy shot, this crazy overhead shot of Duke Hudson, who is like looking back and forth between grabbing, I guess, the flag or grabbing his trophy. Grabbing the flag, grabbing his trophy. So he grabs his trophy and flees the ring. At this point, Bron Breakker takes the Chase U flag and breaks it over his knee and throws it down on Andre Chase, which solidifies his heel turn because this audience doesn't love anybody like they love Andre Chase. And I have to wonder what the average IQ of the NXT audience is. Is it over under 75? Over under 75. I don't know. But Duke Hudson apparently turned heel. Well, long time ago. He honestly never really was a babyface. But he was exceptionally heelish on this promo. Him abandoning Chase U in this segment went unnoticed because they had another segment where Duke is working out, thanking Andre Chase for taking one for the team, and said that he will be the one to finally bring gold back to Chase University, and he did not. He was incorrect. In fact, he was the one who took the pinfall. So the main event of the evening, Grayson Waller versus Duke Hudson versus Dragon Lee versus JD McDonough. I don't know how many title matches JD McDonough is going to get. Well, title contentions. How many bites of the apple, let's say, is JD McDonough going to end up getting? And why are we doing Dragon Lee like this? Instead of giving this guy some kind of, momentum. Again, he's in his second Fatal 4-Way within a month. And his second Fatal 4-Way that he's lost within a month. Grayson Waller wins the match, defeating Duke Hudson, and he does a shoey after the match, which means he drank some kind of liquid out of a boot. Carmelo Hayes came out to confront him. They will wrestle in 2 weeks at NXT Spring Break-In. All right, I like the Melo Grayson Waller match. I wish we could give them more time to have a proper feud. It feels very short notice for me, which tells me that they probably on their way to move Grayson Waller out. And I know we say this all the time with NXT when it comes to these talents. Whenever some of them lose or they're on the verge of losing, we're like, oh, he's on his way out. But you would think that they're giving Grayson Waller just kind of a quick injection into the main event to give Carmelo Hayes a legitimate win so that Grayson Waller can move on. Because if he doesn't win the title this time, what the hell is he hanging around NXT for, right? And why take the belt off Carmelo since you just put the belt on him? Now, there was some talk, let's say, that Carmelo Hayes was supposed to be brought up to join the Hurt Business. I don't believe that because MVP, for starters, has been on a nut for like the past couple of months that anytime another black wrestler was offered for the Hurt Business, he kind of flipped and basically just said, you can't dump all of the black guys in the Hurt Business. Like that's been his gimmick for a while now. So I don't believe for a minute that was the plan for Carmelo Hayes, especially since he won the title. It's like, why would he have Hurt Business plans and then he won the title? That wouldn't make any sense. Why would they have Hurt Business? Like, even if they were planning to reform the Hurt Business, that got nothing to do with Carmelo Hayes. They could have did that without him. There's other black wrestlers on the roster that you could have put in that spot. I don't know. It makes no sense to me, but I'm just reporting the news and giving my opinion to a degree. The match was fast paced. It was okay. I'm tired of Fatal 4-Ways. I'm burnt out on these multiple man matches. It make me not even want to watch the show. I'm sick to death of these cheap ass triple threat matches and Fatal 4-Ways. Can we find some way to narrow down a contender? Maybe if there was a way where two guys could wrestle each other, and then there was two other guys who could wrestle each other in a separate match, and then the winner of those two matches met each other in a match to decide who gets the title match. I mean, damn. I know that's kind of like reinventing the wheel, but it would be nice if they actually did that. But they did a Fatal 4-Way, whatever. Grayson Waller wins. Dragon Lee loses again. LOL. It was all fine. As far as a story running through the show, I wouldn't say it was very compelling. I don't think people would really hang on for the Fatal 4-Way, considering it was a heatless Fatal 4-Way, which is the worst thing about it, is who in this match really had heat with each other. They didn't even know Duke Hudson was going to be in it. So once they found out he was in it, of course they knew he was going to take the loss, even though I didn't think he was actually going to go through with the match. I thought he was going to get taken out of it, but come on. But JD and Dragon Lee, they really got heat? Not really. Grayson Waller just has heat, period. But that's in general. There's no feuds going into this. There's no storyline coming out of it either, outside of Grayson Waller's going to wrestle Carmelo Hayes. It's not a feud. It's just they set up a match, which, whatever. Let's move on. Kiana James is upset at Fallon Henley for running her mouth. And she says she wants to win the NXT Women's Tag Team titles by any means necessary, and that she has no interest in goody two-shoes Fallon Henley. She won yeehaw rodeo bitch Fallon Henley, so they can win. Briggs shows up. Kiana James and Fallon Henley are not really interested in bridging the gap between them, but they found out that Brooks Jensen will not be there. He is not going to be at ringside with them. And Kiana James is a little disappointed at this because she's like, oh no, he doesn't want to be at ringside. And of course, it's because they have been meddling in his personal life at this time. I must have said Fallon Henley, I should say. So match 1, Fire and Dawn defeat Fallon Henley and Kiana James to retain the NXT Tag Team titles. Brooks Jensen showed up in the middle of the match, marched to the ring and grabbed Kiana James' bag. He gives it to Fallon Henley and told her to use it. Fallon Henley refused, gives the bag back. The referee sees the bag, sees Jensen, ejects them both. Jensen is frustrated outside the ring. Briggs tries to talk to him. He shoves Briggs to the ground. Fallon Henley ends up getting pinned by like a kick to the head or something. It was silly. At this point, Brooks just collects Kiana James, carrying her in his arms, and he walks away. So praise God that they're getting rid of Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs. They sucked as a team. Oh boy, did they suck heavy. They sucked bad. They sucked real bad. This Fallon Henley, Kiana James mixed match pairing. One wants to be a babyface. The other one wants to be a heel. It's not really working out. But it was all a storyline anyway. It was never meant to last. So, Fire and Dawn win. Okay, what other option did you really have? Fallon Henley and Kiana James, I guess they're going to start feuding with each other. It's going to be a mixed match feud where I'm guessing Fallon Henley and Josh Briggs are going to end up teaming up. Okay. I don't know how I feel about this. I just kind of want to let it breathe a little bit. But I kind of like Kiana James. I kind of like Fallon Henley. I don't like the guys at all. Josh Briggs is cool and evolved. He sucks in NXT. He sucks real bad in NXT. And Brooks Jensen, I feel like he's just been, the 40-year-old version for 3 years now. It hasn't been that long. I shouldn't say 3 years. It's been 2. Well, it's probably been a little over 1, actually, because he popped up with NXT 2.0. So it's been a little over a year. I really need them to tighten it up. But I'm interested in where they're going, because now they split this little foursome into, a pair of a man and a woman each. And we'll see how far it goes, whether, Brooks wants to fight Jensen, Brooks wants to fight Briggs, and whether Kiana James actually wants to fight Fallon Henley, Even though I'm pretty sure Fallon Henley wants to fight her for cheating on the guy she has a crush on. Her friend, rather. I'm sorry. They had a Noam Dar vignette, which they fixed the problems that I complained of last week. They actually told everybody who Noam Dar is. They didn't mention that he had been in WWE for a long time. They only mentioned that he was in NXT UK. They gave the Heritage Cup rules, the 6 3-minute rounds. Best two win. If you win 2 rounds, you win. And he says he came to see what NXT has to offer. He is the best in Europe and numerous other things. Of course, didn't mention at all that he was on 205 Live, which it kills me that WWE runs away from their own history. You would think a guy like Noam Dar, they would actually utilize that because he needs all the help that he can get to get over. So why not mention that he was on? I guess, if you don't care about that, then I guess you don't care. But I'm just saying, use what you got. So Noam Dar is here. This ought to be interesting. Anybody gonna lose that fucking cup on his first defense just to pop the crowd? All right, they did a Gigi Dolan vignette where she stood outside of her childhood home, reminiscing about how terrible her mother was, and her mom telling her and her brother, her mom telling Gigi and her brother, pronouns, pal, that they don't deserve to be happy, which is quite frankly Disney villain level work from her mom. Just truly nasty work for your mom to say that you don't deserve to be happy. Then she said she ran away from home, never looked back, and that her career is going to be like the tattoo on her arm, where it's going to be a lot of ugly thorns, but it's going to bloom beautifully. Then she turned JC Jane's comment over on herself by saying JC Jane broke her heart, broke her face, but will never break her will. This is an excellent segment. It was fantastic because we got to look at, what's left of Gigi Dolan's childhood home, assuming that it's true, which it might not be, but it doesn't have to be. This is wrestling. It doesn't have to be 100% factual, okay? But it was covered in graffiti. It was a rundown place. She was, reminiscing about staring outside the windows, dreaming of a better life. There was pictures of her and her brother in this thing back when she used to look normal. It was really cool. And it was short. Like, this is the power of what you can do with a vignette in a short amount of time. They really slowly but surely telling this story. I like this. This is very good. They did a Tony D'Angelo and Stacks. They attacked Pretty Deadly. I think it's in the parking lot, the NXT parking lot. They beat him with pipes and actually kidnapped one of the members of Pretty Deadly, threw him in the trunk of the car. It was crazy. I'm like, wow. Like, you would think Tony D'Angelo would have beat Gallus with pipes. I mean, they're the ones who cost you the tag team titles. It's 3 of them. You would think you would have attacked Gallus with the pipes, but no, it was Pretty Deadly. Okay, and they kidnapped one of them. Wow, that's pretty crazy. So later, Tony D'Angelo and Stacks are celebrating their heinous act of attacking guys for no reason with pipes and kidnap. Then they ran across Roxanne Perez, who is still as happy-go-lucky as they come. She lost her title, but still has her smile. She's still grinning. So, of course, she wants her title back. And Tony D'Angelo and Stacks offered to be her backup if she's ever needed. Because apparently at one point, this young lady might need somebody hit with a pipe. And then here comes Zoe Stark, who, you know, they got a good point. Zoe Stark needs to be hit with a pipe. She needs to be hit with several pipes. She also looks like she used to hit the pipe. Anyway, Zoe Stark makes some kind of off-color joke about Roxanne Perez's anxiety, to which Roxanne Perez went into commercial PSA, the more you know. It's people like you. Why folks don't want to talk about their anxieties. I'm like, oh, shut up. Push her in the lockers, please. Give her a wedgie, please. At this point, I'm saying maybe Zoe Stark needs to, like, kick her pockets, like Homeboy did to Napoleon Dynamite. You need to kick her in the goddamn pockets and watch, like, potato tots fall out of her pocket. They need to do something to this girl, man. She sucks. Look, I like Roxanne Perez, good wrestler, you know, prodigious pro wrestler. But when it comes to personality, she is awful. She's like 12 years old. Zoe Stark needs to give her a wedgie. Give her one for me, one for the Micker. Anyway, it's people like you that makes people difficult talking about their anxiety. Like, you shut your ass. Shut your ass. Anyway, Roxanne Perez challenged Zoe Stark to a match for next week. I'm like, oh my goodness. At this point, Pretty Deadly viciously attacked Tony D'Angelo and Stacks and actually showed a different side of their characters. Like, these two guys are tough. They don't take no shit. You ain't just going to run around here and kidnap Pretty Deadly. Who do you think you are? So I like this. You know, this was great. I don't know why Pretty Deadly and Tony D'Angelo and Stacks are involved in like this basic blood feud, but it's okay with me. I ain't mad at this. I just wish that it was Gallus and not Pretty Deadly. You know, Pretty Deadly is good and all, but why are they the ones, locking horns with Tony D'Angelo and Stacks? I don't know. Who cares? Eddie Thorpe defeated Javier Bernal. Big body Javi. Damon Kemp was watching for some reason. I don't know what his problem is. He needs to go away. Or he needs to get involved. You know, it's not a spectator sport, bro. You got to do one or the other. Speaking of which, where's his brother? His brother, Gable Steveson, is apparently going to go and wrestle in some kind of amateur wrestling thing. This guy has made 0 WWE appearances, and it's not looking good. I can tell you that much. It ain't looking like he's ever going to make an appearance. I'm just laughing. I'm laughing because it's funny. Eddie Thorpe. Oh boy. He still is not impressing me. All you New Japan fans, y'all gonna have to explain yourselves in a minute. I'm gonna give them maybe 1 or 2 more showings before I start asking questions about this Eddie Thorpe and what was the big deal with this. But I'm gonna wait a little bit. I'm gonna give him a little bit more time. This Tank Ledger guy who looks like a bowling ball with arms and legs. He shows a little bit of personality. He's backstage, gets into an argument with Joe Coffey. At this point, they agree to have a match later. Schism then walks up to get in Gallus's face. And guess who is still there? The Grizzled Young Veterans, aka the Dyad. The guys that we were told quit the company and was granted their releases. We were told these guys didn't work there anymore. And here they are. Here, they're still here. They're still here. Now, I'm going to give the dirt sheet. I shouldn't give the dirt sheets no grace period. I usually take no mercy on the dirt sheets, but I will say this. It might be the last thing that they do. All right. I'm going to say that. If they're still here in May, then okay. But this might be the last thing they do. We don't know. But Joe Gacy wants the Dyad to get their long-earned title shot, feeling that the Dyad had been looked over, and Gallus was like, look, if you want it, all you have to do is ask. And I was like, okay, I guess. And so it is what it is. I just thought it was very interesting how the dirt sheets, many of whom said that the Grizzly Young Veterans had quit. Yes, I even saw James Drake change his name to James Drake, and he's still on NXT. So maybe they did get that release, but it's conditional. They have to work one more match or a couple of more matches or whatever. It's entirely possible. So I'm not going to shit on them too much. We'll see how it goes in the future. Anyway, the Creed brothers are backstage. Diamond Mine is once again together. Now that Ivy Nile is done with Tatum Paxley, like that didn't take much. They had one match and now their feud is over. Now the Creed brothers want the tag team titles and they want to fight Gallus. Okie dokie. Sure, whatever you say. Because Joe Coffey and Tank Ledger got into an argument earlier, of course they have a match tonight. Tank Ledger is friends with Hank Walker, the security guy, which it doesn't bode well for him. Tank and Hank. This sounds like two hillbillies. So Tank Ledger comes out there. The first time I ever seen this guy in my life. I promise you that. He seems to have some personality. He likes to dance and he's got some personality. I wouldn't say charisma, but I would say he has personality. He's trying. And then I see his tights. And he is the second or maybe the third NXT talent I've seen recently where their tights are short on one side, long on the other. That's a fucking rib. All right. It's got to be a rib. Who told you to do that? It's the stupidest look that anybody can possibly do. I remember when Zack Ryder did that dumb shit. The short on one side, long on the other, you automatically a jobber. All right. Nobody has ever gotten to a main event looking like that. All right. Now, outside of looking like a straight damn fool with one leg, and then short on one side, Tank Ledger actually showed a little bit in this ring too. He's actually not terrible. He's a young guy. He's an NIL talent, so he's fairly new to the ring, but he seems to have taken to it pretty well. Kind of a generic babyface, but he did not a German suplex, I'm sorry. A belly-to-belly overhead, was pretty clean. So he didn't look terrible. Visually, he's a chunky guy. He looks like he played football. So it makes sense. He looked like a football player. He's not super cut, but he's not overly fat and out of shape either. He's a big dude. Okay. Obviously Joe Coffey wins the match. Fine. Joe Coffey wins. After the match, the Creed brothers and the Dyad, they brawl with Gallus, and this is going to lead to a triple threat match next week. Oh my goodness, a triple threat match. More multiple man matches. Sean, what is your poorly disguised fetish? All right. This is the writer's poorly disguised fetish. For Christ's sake, moratorium on triple threat matches. Moratorium on fatal four ways. No more. No mas. I'm sick of them. No more of them. I'm sick. Sick to death of them. All right. Tiffany Stratton versus Sol Ruka in a match that got the internet a-buzzing. Both of these girls were trending on Twitter after this match because they went in there and pulled a Will Ospreay and Ricochet where they were doing more mirrors of each other's moves. Similar to Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lynn, they both did cartwheels. And then at one point, they both did leg sweeps that they countered with backflips. it was all very athletic and gymnastic. I would prefer a focus on the fundamentals, but as two wrestlers, neither one of whom were on TV 2 years ago, I can say this is fine. Now, of course, this landed to an almost... Now, this is the second time this week, to be quite honest, because it happened again Friday, where Sol Ruka, I think she had a tag team match with Danny Palmer, and they wrestled, I think, Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. It's off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember. But it was a level up match. And they were doing a lot of spots there, too. And the spots were kind of clean or whatever. And a lot of the AEW fans were very upset at seeing this stuff and saying, like, you know, all these girls are green. They probably practiced this match 100 times over. And, you know, some of the same shit that people say about AEW wrestlers. Now, the thing about that, when somebody made a focus on that match, because there was, you know, some Divas stand or whatever that was focusing on this match, his main focus wasn't on the athleticism of the match. It was on how each woman in the match had been on TV for less than a year or less than 2 years or whatever. Like, most of them are moving very fast in terms of how well they're doing. And that's the benefit of this system of having NXT and Level Up and the Performance Center, etc., is that you're seeing these girls get better. You're seeing them when they suck, but you're also watching them improve very quickly too. Now, they are doing a lot of spots that they probably had to walk through 100 times. That's a fact. And I wish they didn't do that. I wish it was better. And it was, you know, straight up pro wrestling where you learn the basics first. And then you learn how to mix in your favorite spots here and there. But the AEW fan base were pretty upset because they didn't like that the NXT women were getting all this credit and they're green and, you know, they only know how to do spots, which is how ironic when, you know, when WWE fans complain about like Top Flight or something like that, you get called a hater and told to shut the hell up. You know, this is what wrestling is now. Which also, you know, a lot of the WWE fans who are, you know, giving Sol Ruka and Tiffany Stratton all these flowers. And this isn't what they really wanted from wrestling either. So it's very interesting. But like I said, both of these girls have been on TV for less than 3 years. Sol Ruka has been on TV about 3 months, you know, maybe. She's still in her jobber phase where she doesn't really even have a character. And Tiffany Stratton's been on TV about a year or some change, not counting the time she went off to get lip fillers and boob job. So she's been on TV about as long as Braun Breaker. Actually, no, because she didn't start at the same time. Tiffany Stratton debuted, I think, maybe 2 months or 3 months after Braun Breaker. So she's been on TV for a while, but not that long, because Braun's only been on TV for about a year. So what you're looking at is the fast rate and how these women are changing and picking up things. And that is what is very impressive. You know, when I watched this match, I was very impressed looking at it saying these two women, neither of whom had any prior wrestling experience. None of these people had any wrestling experience. And that's another thing that was very impressive, is that if you see this stuff, but they've been doing this shit for years, like if you watch, I don't know, Athena in Ring of Honor, and she does something similar to this, well, she's got 10 years of fucking experience. Of course her matches are going to look like this. But when you have somebody who, you know, most of these people are barely in their 20s, they can't have 10 years of experience. That's impressive. No matter how you cut it, for them to be able to do even the gymnastics in a combat setting is impressive. Now, let's focus on the goddamn basics, you know, headlock takeovers, and maybe you throw a head scissor in there. If you want to have a moonsault finisher, great. But them going forward, Rob Van Dam, Jerry Lynn, in their second year in the business, that's impressive. You know, I don't know how else you could say it. It's impressive. Ain't exactly what I want to see, but it's impressive. And who knows, if they get a couple of more years under their belt, they might actually get good at wrestling and not just fucking gymnastics. Speaking of fucking gymnastics, Scripps, he's cutting a promo on Axiom, Ask him what his biggest fear is. Is it his past? Is it his future? I was like, oh no, we're still here with this. Then he says now that he has Axiom's attention, he will expose him. I'm guessing Scripps now wants to unmask Axiom. At least it's a motivation. But Reggie, come on, bro. Let's let it go. Reggie is in that same that same boat with like Sol Ruka and all them, except for he's just been there a little bit longer. I remember everybody was very impressed by Reggie's abilities because he was a gymnast for Cirque du Soleil, and it was Sin Cara who was basically saying like, okay, you can do the flips and everything, but now you need to learn how to wrestle. And I remember they was going back and forth about whether Reggie knows how to wrestle or not. It's like, he doesn't. He just knows how to tumble. He knows how to do the flips, the physical part. He needs to learn the psychology. He needs to learn how to strike. He wasn't even throwing punches and stuff like that at the time. This is when he wrestled Sasha Banks around. So what was it, like 2 years ago? maybe 3 years ago. So it wasn't that long ago. So now Scripps is going to go out here and have flippity doo-dah matches with Axiom. And it's all going to be very depressing because nobody's going to care about any of this crap. Because nobody likes Axiom and nobody likes Scripps. So this is going to be boring. And speaking of boring, Cora Jade got boring chants for her promo, which went on entirely too long, in which she decided to address all of her enemies, which were pretty much the entire women's division. And she attacks each one of them one at a time. By the time she got to Indy Hartwell, people were chanting boring and shut up and end this and all sorts of things, which I don't think was the intended goal. On a positive note, Cora Jade at least is comfortable on the microphone. She's comfortable with her voice. I just felt like her promo was too long. It was that simple. And I don't think anything in her promo really jumped out at you outside of her saying that she was chanting "took you long enough" at Indy Hartwell, which I thought was funny. But the rest of this stuff was no big deal. She was interrupted by Lyra Valkyria, who says that the women's division took a step forward in that ladder match, and Cora Jade is jealous that she wasn't there and she wasn't a part of it. To which Cora Jade told her to shut up and go do bird things like lay an egg or build a nest or something. Then Lyra Valkyria said she was going to rake Cora Jade's eyeballs out if she challenged for the title. And I was thinking like, wait a minute. Is that a legitimate reason to rake somebody's eyeballs out? I guess if you need to rake somebody, use your talons to rake somebody's eyeballs out. Them trying to become the champion, I guess so. Lyra Valkyria was decent on the mic too. It was her cadence was a little weird. It's very creepy. I don't know if it's creepy on purpose, but it's very creepy. It's very creepy. But Cora Jade at least is very comfortable. The material isn't very good, but she's at least comfortable saying it. And she has a nice way of standing and projecting her personality. She has really matured a lot on TV. Like, you go back to watch Cora Jade when she first started, and then you watch her now, she's a lot more confident. And she seems to have really found her pocket, which is, a really a good thing. I'm telling you, the Performance Center, if you look at it, it's building slowly, but it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is forcing people to get better through the competitive process of there being so many people behind you that if you are not improving fast, you get replaced. Remember, they put a lot of effort into Lash Legend, and now she's been booted over to Level Up, and Sol Ruka has taken her spot, and I think Tiffany Stratton has taken her spot. And of course, all the chicks from Europe has come over and took a spot. So now Lash Legend is kind of like sitting over and Level Up, kind of confused. Same thing with Dante Chen. He had a nice little running head start on some of these guys, and he got surpassed. Like the competitive process forces people to get better or to be kicked aside. And it's the best way to do things, because either you're going to respond by getting better or somebody's going to see that other people deserve more TV time because they're improving a lot more. So a lot of the talent on NXT, they benefit from that sort of process. You know, there is going to be some favoritism to a degree, but they definitely benefit from a process where you could lose your spot, you know, because now you got, you know, all these other people behind you who are looking for a spot. And I like it. You know, it's working out. And Cora Jade has turned into something very interesting on NXT TV. And I don't just mean she went and got a boob job and tattoos and stuff. She actually is coming across a little bit better. All right. 2 more things. Ilya Dragunov defeated Von Wagner. So Robert Stone is leaving Von Wagner, which who cares really? This was basically a squash match. Von Wagner got very little offense. Ilya Dragunov just beat him with his finisher. Von Wagner looked like shit, as usual. I feel bad for the kid. You know, Von Wagner is one of these guys who he debuted the exact same night as Braun Breaker, if I remember correctly. Or was it the next week? It was one or the other. But he's been outperformed. You know, that competitive process over in NXT where, you know, you don't just get your position because you were there first. You know, people were better than he was. He lost his spot. And now, you know, he's in this position doing jobs and shit because he hasn't been very good. He hasn't been a good promo. He doesn't have a character or personality, you know. So he's struggling, you know, and that's unfortunate. After the match, Dijak confronts Ilya Dragunov and says that if pain makes Dragunov feel alive, he's going to make Dragunov immortal. I'm interested in this match. I know a lot of the indie wrestling fans are going to love the Dragunov Dijak match. I probably will like it, but I don't like Dijak. I really don't. His big boss man adjacent gimmick is okay because, you know, I've always been a big fan of if he's boring, put a mask on him, which is my idea for Von Wagner, is to basically put a mask on him. Like he got nothing going for him. He looks like an ogre. Put a mask on him. I mean, what else can you do? But Dijak, the sunglasses are working. The sunglasses in the black jacket is kind of working. You know, I don't know about the black jacket idea, but the sunglasses, okay, it works. Dragunov rules. Von Wagner sucks. And it's all okay. All right, so Wes Lee, in the final segment we're going to discuss here, Wes Lee was talking about the North American title. He was interrupted by Drew Gulak, who gave him credit for all of his high-flying exploits, but wonders if he can do it on the ground, and could he do all of that if he was tied up in a knot, busted and bleeding and all this stuff. So the idea is that Charlie Dempsey is going to challenge Wes Lee. I like this. I like this a lot because I like Charlie Dempsey a lot. Charlie Dempsey rules. So hopefully he wins that belt. He's a little bit dry on the personality front, but with the right mouthpiece, I think Charlie, or the right character, because Charlie Dempsey doesn't have really a character. With the right character, the right presentation, and the right mouthpiece, Charlie Dempsey could be something special. He also looks like he could be a member of Imperium. You know, that could work too. I also saw Bryan Danielson say some shit about Drew Gulak being the pancreas of pro wrestling. I don't know what the fuck that is. His reasoning for this is that the pancreas helps with your digestion. And he says, I just got to read it. I can't just skip over it. Okay, so Bryan Danielson was talking to that weirdo RJ City. And he was talking about, this is one of the things that I do really well is I slow down so that I can think about a proper answer. One of the things that's about focus that's very important is the ability to tune out all the distractions and focus on who really could be the pancreas of professional wrestling. And if I had to choose perhaps one person, I would say Drew Gulak. I don't get it. But it was the idea that he was talking about body parts, like that Jon Moxley is the soul of AEW, Bryan Danielson is the heart of AEW. CM Punk is the dollars and the cents. But who is the pancreas of pro wrestling? And apparently his answer to this is Drew Gulak, which explains why he talked Vince McMahon into a 22-minute match between himself and Drew Gulak on an Elimination Chamber. A match that no doubt cost Drew Gulak his job, made Vince want to strangle Bryan Danielson, and made me want to strangle Vince for putting that shit on TV. Look, I'm not saying that it was too bad. I'm not saying it was awful. I'm just saying it was 22 minutes of Drew Gulak. Unreal. Unreal the shit that Danielson was able to do to us. It was torture, bro. And then he went and did the same thing with like Daniel Garcia and AEW. Like, what's wrong with this guy? He's a menace. He needs to be stopped. All right. That was NXT. NXT was a fairly solid show. Pretty good solid. We found out who the number one contender is going to be. Got a couple of nice little brawls in here. Got a debut in Tank Ledger. Sol Ruka and Tiffany Stratton almost broke the internet. Everybody's very excited about their ability to do flips and tumbles and shit. Look, I like these girls. I really do. But I need to see some wrestling out of them, for Christ's sake. And not just, ability to do spots. Ability to run the ropes and run past each other. Like, it's kind of silly to run past each other and do cartwheels past each other. It's kind of silly. But, what did you guys think? Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. I have decided that I am now the pancreas of the pro wrestling YouTube space. I help with your digestion and break up your stomach acids or whatever the fuck. All right. Talk to you guys later.